Okay, experiment begins. The Central Portal's inquiry is about how we humans evolve in our greater appreciation of ourselves and our capacities. Today we bring the focus to the human as an essence carrier. Over the last 2 or 3 centuries, in fact, ever since the scientific revolution and the greater proliferation of knowledge and personal expression, humanity has been on a trajectory of specialization. We have seen increasing development of mastery and the proficiency of skills, often mastery in narrower and narrower skills. So you get the pianist who only plays Bach, and certainly in medicine you get the physicians who only perform one procedure. You could say they are no longer a general doctor, really, they are proceduralists. So this is all great and wonderful because this increasing mastery moved us forward on many frontiers, and we have progressed in many ways that we are grateful for, in the sciences, in the arts and more. What is nevertheless often lost in the process is the greater mastery of being a human, where the focus is not on a specific skill, but on the human capacity to connect with the living essence of many domains. And this is the focus of our exploration today. The human as an essence carrier. And the inquiry is, what is an essence carrier? What is the significance of this development and possibility? And specifically, what is the significance of its arising over the last few decades alongside the postmodern desire to throw the baby with the bathtub water? A baby, in this context, being the reverence and the sense that there is something preciously special, about all that human life can come into contact with. So, in the way we explore this today, we are coming out of the realization that this inquiry about an essence carrier, this is not a concept, this is not an academic notion, this is not an intellectual idea. It's not even a proposition unto itself. It's more than that. It's a reflection on the embodied experiential actualization of the permission and the way of being that goes beyond a mental or a feeling dimension, and that essence carriers are people that walk the face of this earth today as gate openers, as access makers, as teachers, as facilitators, and so on and so forth. So we are here with a large group of friends, mid-flight, a 3-day weekend, and we are bringing the focus to this inquiry about essence carriers. And we will ask that we now bring the many voices forward to speak to what it is that comes alive for you when you hear the phrase, the human as an essence carrier.
The way I'll approach this is to do with freedom. And if you look in history about how religions developed, how special places developed, they were special places. And certainly an essence attended many of them. But the point is that any human being who wanted to experience that essence or be with that essence had to go to that place or had to subscribe to a particular religious practice. Basically, they had no freedom in themselves. Miller's church history is an example. It gives some terrible stories of how withdrawing the privileges that the Roman Catholic Church put or gave to a country, and that would decimate the country, simply because the king or the ruler of the country wouldn't bow the knee to the Roman Catholic Church. And I'm sure it's not just the Roman Catholics, but I know about them. So that's the first point, is the humans, individual humans as being essence carriers, confer freedom to the rest of humanity, because it means that any human, if they're right, can actually carry an essence anywhere in the world, even across Zoom, and that essence can be transferred in that way. So that's the first freedom. The second freedom is the freedom for the essences, because again, they were imprisoned. We're talking about essence carriers, not essence prisons. And many humans previously would have brought in an essence by behavior of some kind, some ritual, and imprisoned it. But the point of being an essence carrier is that the essences are free to come and go as they choose. And I think about it as essences being nearby and are carried when they need to be carried. So I think that's how I would start.
The Industrial Revolution and the technology revolution that came after it brought a lot of people in the world, invention in the world, as improvement in life. But as I read it, more confusion and lesser hope for a better future. Now, what my detection is that most of the people in the world are going, even without be aware about it, they are going in a stream that was directed before them because of economical needs and because other reasons. Now, I want to use the example of the Solomon fish that's going the other way of the stream. And from time to time, we see people and we learn about people that for me are like this Solomon fish. They can go, they manage to go against the stream, against the comfortability, against the conformity, and to coming nearer and nearer to a source. This is what the Solomon fish does, coming nearer and nearer to the source. And this fact by itself, and we see these people, we know about these people, we feel them many times. It doesn't need to be scientists, it can be even people that do little things. They're bringing to me up. The significance is that if there is a one vector of a stream, can be another vector against the stream. Now, the significance is there is a possibility. There is the human capacity and the design to go against the print of family, of tribe, of laziness, and so on, by consciousness or by luck. And when it happened, something else joined to these people. It would join to these people, teach everyone else about different possibility, and many, many times, bigger change happens because of it. Thank you.
Well, I've been journeying for many years to be able to connect to essences, be with them, and then share them with other people. So this is what I would say an essence carrier is. And I think each one of us connect with different essences. Like we have many friends who create wonderful music and art, and they connect to the essence of music or art or dance or writing. And that essence lives with them, and then they can transfer that to another person. For myself, I've always tried to connect into warmth and care so that I can live with warmth and care can find, and warmth can find a home in me. And what is the best thing that I can do with that? The best gift that I can offer is to offer that to another person. And just to say one more thing, we live in a world where we are so disconnected. People are so disconnected from each other, from themselves. And through these essences, we can connect and say to other people, we are one. We are one human race. And I see what lives in you, and I hope you can see what lives in me.
The questions that have been asked, there's been more than one, and it's been a wonderful process considering what is an essence carrier. And there are things that I would like to say, but I'll try and keep it quite short. In the sense of, what do you do? And do you love what you do? And in the making of anything that you do, either for yourself or for another person, where has that come from? One of the aspects that I realized quite early on when I started my journey is that I would find myself doing something and asking myself, why am I doing this? I'm sitting here in an office wondering in the middle of the night, why am I still here? And I get a phone call from someone and they've said, I've left something at the office, can you bring it home to me? And it's almost as though there's something in you that knows there's something that's needed by someone, but you don't know what it is. And you start to ask yourself what and who is communicating with you. So another aspect, and I think I take this on as, never be afraid to just sit and wait. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's really hard just to sit or stand and say, I'm going to make a cup of tea for someone. And I'm going to put all the love that I have for that person in that cup of tea. And I'm going to take it to that person. And I'm going to sit down with them and I'm going to listen. Because they need someone to listen to what they are struggling with. And a lot of the time people don't realize that there are pains in them that need to be spoken out. Or you don't realize it for yourself. So essence carriers offer spaces for people to move into, talk into, connect with, be with. And as I said, it's from a simple location that I offer that here. And maybe there's someone out there that just needs to hear those things. Thank you, Aviv.
I'd like to come at this notion from two different aspects. The first of them will be by describing shortly a film that I saw about 30, 40 years ago about Picasso. His father was a painter, a very famous painter, and he was famous for painting pigeons. And he allowed his little son to paint the foot or the lower part of the leg of a pigeon, nothing more. And lo and behold, one day he came up home and he found that his little son, he was about 8 or 10 years old, have drawn a whole pigeon. The father just had a look at it, went to his room, locked the door. An hour later, he came out with his palette, gave it to his son, and from that moment, he never painted again. When I heard this on that television show, I was so impressed because I think the father has realized and recognized the fact that his son is carrying the essence of a painter. whatever that means. And I think when the second thing, the second aspect is when I look at all humans, basically they all look the same, you know, two hands, two legs, and some physical differences, but we're not very different from one another in our appearance, in our abilities, but there are outstanding features about each one. And some people would call it a character, a nature, but I think it's something else that expresses itself through us, the humans. And if it's something which is permanent, then it's probably what we call an essence, which that person has been bothered by so many years that it just stuck to him, or they stick to one another. If not, then we exchange essences. We're not really essence carriers, but we carry various glimpses of things, and we are kind of a salad. But some people are definitely becoming some kind of a beacon or something that they are carrying with them. And that word, I think, that I used before, bothering, seems to me to be right, because it's something that won't let them go. Thank you.
I wanted to make really a kind of a tribute to the kind of courage I've seen over the years in my work. Some people have, through no fault of their own, ended up in an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction. And some of those people, they're all outstanding. Some of those people carry things that have absolutely made me humble. Qualities that, despite their life, despite all the difficulties, despite everything almost breaking down around them, even the sense of things breaking down in them, there are essences, qualities that still shine through, of warmth, protection, care, even in the worst of circumstances, for each other, where they stick it out and they help each other. I think it's an enormous privilege to watch someone who feels lucky to be alive at the age of 50, whose friends have mostly passed away because of another addiction, want to help, want to try to give, want to try and see a better world. Thank you.
This is just an amazing question, and I'm in puzzlement, and I'm in wonder, and I'm in awe of something about what it means and conveys, and to be an essence carrier, which we all potentially are, as far as I'm concerned. I think part of it is to be joined to a much, much larger picture about life, and a picture that contains questions like, where are we? What is life for? What are humans for? What does it mean to be in service to something? So these questions, I think it's important to, and part of being an essence carrier, to live in these questions and to love these questions and to glow with these questions. And also to embrace hope and the knowing that all is well, despite the short-term evidences to the contrary, and in fact, because of them. So to be an essence carrier is to live in the long term, not the short term, where these evidence to the contrary are. But to be an essence carrier is to live in the long term and to know in this what we don't always know when we're in the small and temporary. For instance, to know that we are not alone and simply never shall be. And that we're here to do something great and to believe in who and what we are and what this place is about and what's possible.
Every human being we meet, he carries something. We see people in the road we work with, some people you feel attracted to, some people you want to walk away. So every person in some ways at one level is essence carrier, they carry something. But in this context, I think you promoting this, I think we're talking about maybe people who become a focal point in their life for something more pivotal. And I can, for example, what comes to my mind, some figurehead from the history like Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, for example, through his life experience and through what he felt, he took, through his position he took, he became a focal point for justice and what he did for Indian people. He could not do it and attracted those people to him. And it became a movement. And something like that is so obvious to see that he certainly carried and became a focal point for some essence, something. And other figures you can see, Martin Luther King, for example, through his resistance, through what he carried, position taking, people got attracted and he moved to something. But we can even take it further, that through one's choice and desire, I believe the current times everything is so changing, such as fast as speed, is possible, more possible now than perhaps 400 years ago, 300 years ago wasn't possible. I think I can feel a possibility for humans to come forward and decide on something they want to do or something they feel passionate and strong enough. And in pursuit of that, they carry that essence. And we're talking about level of humanity, regenerative work, things that has got a longevity, is to do with the beneficial purposes for all human beings. It's not a selfish thing. It's a kind of it starts at home, but it's got a much bigger application. And when you're referring to essence carrier, I'm kind of coming to that ground that everybody could potentially essence carry in current times. And the promotion of that, I believe, is extraordinary for younger people. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to start with language. And just starting with the term essence carrier is not such common language. It's got a bit of a mystery to it. When you connect it up with human as an essence carrier, it immediately makes me wonder, is this all human beings? Is it special human beings? Is it special times? And I go from there to every single human life is special, and every human life carries things. So there's a saying, the essence of who we are. And I think we don't have to look very far inside of our own lives to see that when we carry things around with us, like anger, we spread that, it transfers to other people, and we're likely to get back anger or frustration. When we carry things like care and sharing, we're more likely to get back warmth and gratitude. So we can see just in our own lives how we carry things, transfers to other people, can light people up, can heal people, can help people. So we see the effect it has on the world around us. Now, because life is always in motion, we don't just have and stop at the essence of who we are. We also have the essence of who we want to be or who we can be. And that indicates we have choice. So we have choice about how we want to live our lives, what we want to carry, what we want to offer and spread into the world. Is that service? Is that healing? Is that music? Is that art? Is that something else? And again, we don't have to look too far into our own lives to see that when we make a definitive choice with awareness, with reasoning, and devote our actions to it, we're more likely to get further down the road to realize that direction when we purposefully pick it. So because life is also, always in motion, we can't ignore all the signs around us that say pretty much from the beginning of human life on this planet, there's something very big and something very potent that has always been pushing human life to improve, to grow, to get better, to advance. So there's the essence of who we are and the essence of who we want to become, but there's also the essence of what might become inside of this greater force of evolution that's opening doors and pushing human beings forward. So that makes for a very, very large picture. There's the sense of going somewhere and going somewhere for a reason and having that living inside of an even larger reason, which is yet a new mystery for us to work on. So I would end with that.
Shalom. Hi. I would like to, it's so vast and a lot of things were said that are important. And I thought about the essence carrier that we are as being human beings. We are electrical human being. We are more focused in the metrics and the physical part of us and if we are good or not. But while we live, we already essence carrier. And the question is what we want to carry and how we want to be with ourselves and all that surround us. When I go inside myself, I feel the essence and I feel everybody connected. So the question is really what do I carry and the responsibility and the way that things when reflect to me.
In considering the human, I have to take a huge range of perspectives to consider it. Because at one end, it's a carnal form, like 70 kilograms of flesh. Yet it lives in a world of things, essences that have no form. They have an essential nature, things like hope, care, service, trust. And the human, it can bridge these realms. And it seems like we each have a unique nature that causes us to choose particular essences and be able to give translation to them. So I feel that the human function is a bridging one of the electrical realms of essence. into the realms of society between us?
I'm going to approach it from the angle of young teenagers and how they view themselves. And I think that the perception of SN carriers can really have an impact and shift the way that they think about themselves. Each person clearly is born with unique genetics and inclinations and a potential and a promise. And as children, they really are graced by that, by the attention they get around from their parents and all people. There's a grace. Everyone's witnessing their life and excited about everything that they are and can do. But as they grow and approach their teenage years and they mature, they seem to seek their worth and often experience really extreme ups and downs of their self-location and self-importance. And in this day and age, it is so overratedly emphasizing looks and or a skill or a talent, like if you can sing and you're on YouTube, and they're very exposed to all of that. And so they're seeking their worth in end results and final things that we can all point at and say, oh, look, they can do that. And what is lost is the profound truth that their true worth is actually less personal and is always changing and always evolving and located in the core of who they will become, not who they are right now or what they can do right now, but who they can become. And each person can offer an opportunity of expressing a symphony of essences, not just one single, a symphony throughout their life or at any given moment. And we carry these essences in our minds and in our hearts and in the rhythm and tempo and style of our actions that expresses what's living inside us. And so, for example, if you give a homeless person a pair of socks or some money, then in reality, you are helping that person specifically in that moment. But behind that theater, what you're doing is you are giving expression to the essence of generosity. And you are enhancing the essence of generosity, which offers an opportunity of the continuance of that essence of generosity, which will outlive the homeless person and you giving them the pair of socks. And that essence of generosity can then connect to other essences like kindness and love and intimacy and care and, all friends and relations of that essence. And that's why it's actually just as powerful if you give $1 or a smile or $1 million, if you truly come from that place of being an essence carrier. And the worth of the person then is no longer about themselves, it's about a greater cause, which has been mentioned by other people here. Sometimes very hard for someone in their teenage years to perceive themselves as part of a greater cause. The way we've arranged society nowadays, they often get so many negative reflections and reactions, and everyone wants them to be good at this, to be good at that, and they're graded and measured and judged. But when you're an essence carrier, you do it without judgment. And the essence doesn't judge you either. The essence doesn't care if your face is worthy to be on Instagram. The essence loves you for carrying it and for allowing it transference. And it's one of those things that simply cannot be measured like other things, but it can be felt and has such an unpredictable impact. Just like a tiny little note has no idea of how valuable it is in a symphony of notes. And that would be my message to young people.
Hello.
Yes.
When I hear the words essence carrier, it first conjures up the romantic stories of my childhood, of the Arthurian legends, that there was Sir Mark the Virtuous, or Sir Mary the Kind, and all of these titles that the knights had, and the good deeds that they would do. And the stories I've always heard was that the knight would have a charge, which was a quality, that they would put the symbol of it on their shield. And it was an advertisement of that quality that they were, one, embodying and working into their life, but also that they were championing to uphold and to live. And these stories took places, I'm assuming, in the Dark Ages, because I wasn't there, and I got the sense that Dark Ages were quite dark. And the image that it puts in my mind is that you would have a human being who would take on a quality and hold it like a shield is held through the darkness, through the dark times, wherever across the lands they went. And it was something that they held as a code. And now they sounded romantic, but something in me instinctually thinks, was there truth in it? And where did it come from? And then when I look to the natural worlds, I see the whole notion of pollination, where a bee will carry the pollen from one flower to another, and then to another. And you start to see, what is it that they're carrying? There's the next conjuring is the idea of being as viruses, and being the carrier of antibodies, or the carrier of a virus, not necessarily a bad virus, because we know what they are, but a good virus, which could be a quality. And you often will see that this notions in our language of they're spreading joy all over the place, or the language of someone's cup runneth over. They're so excited you cannot not be contaged by it, and you're not even sure why. So I start to think that we're all carriers of something. And the question starts to open up for me is, what is it that we want to carry? And in the medical worlds, and not that I know exactly how they work, but if a virus needs a protein coat to house, to live in, my question is, what is the protein coat for a human being? Because if there is something of an essence, the essence of kindness, or the nature of a skill, is the protein coat the application of it in our life, and the living of it in our life, that actually holds it. And by holding it and living those types of qualities or values or sentiments, do we not, like the knights of old, champion these and become essence carriers into what could be, at least what I see in the world, another set of dark ages of many kinds? And I think it's very significant, because each person can decide what it is that they want to hold and live in their life, and actually continue to work out on behalf of carrying those things into the future, and maybe giving great significance to each individual, that they're carrying one aspect through the darkness into the future, so that it has a home in the future, just like the bee pollinating flowers.
In order to connect to what is an essence carrier, there was this persistent story that kept coming up in my life, from my life. And to honor that, I'm going to tell it as briefly as I can. I was working in a university, and every Wednesday afternoon, there was some sort of visiting speaker who would come and do a little presentation for 1 hour. And So I wanted to go to it, and I was running late. And when I got there, I'd actually missed the first half hour. And I came into and sat down, trying not to disturb what was going on. And I started listening to the speaker, and he was presenting his book, and it was okay, but it was quite dry and it was quite academic. And there was a small audience, and this critique started going through my mind, because I did train people to critique. and some inner voice in me said, hang on a minute, you arrived late, you've missed the first part, you're preempting what's going on. And I think I was actually picking up some of the noises too that were in other people. And then this very strident inner voice said, shut the expletive up. And I listened to it, and I backed myself off. I backed off my critique, my personality, everything else, and went entirely neutral. And something happened. The man who was talking, suddenly it's like his life entered into what he was actually talking about. And it became quite impassioned and animated. And what started coming out of the people listening when he asked for response was all the things that I would have said if I had the reference and the intelligence and everything to say it in the way that it needed to be said. And it was extraordinary. I just sat there and shut up. And there was an atmosphere that became inclusive and harmonious and giving and taking and allowing of what was said. There was a reception and a giving. And it was such a lesson for me of humility. And when I connected to that story in myself, I started writing, and I drew a picture, and it's an imperfect picture, but it was a sort of a blending of a Swiss Army knife and a skeleton key. And I've written at the bottom, a blended unseen skeleton key and army knife of unlimited potential. And in me sits the recognition of what I value and the respect of every human as a spiritual being. So I know that there's a foundation in me that any response that I give to any situation is sitting upon, and that my life comes out from. But I recognized that I was able to move in and out of myself, and something was able to move in and out of me.
One of the things, the stories and comments people have been making were very moving. And one thing that's coming out for me in this is there's the person, and then there's what they carry. And then there's the person who would be witness to what they carry and amplify it or magnify it in some way. And to and I'll example this with another, like the other person told us another story. Years ago, when I was essentially in an apprenticeship, there was a man I used to work with who was like training me, and this man was exceptional. He was older than me. He did 2 tours during the Vietnam War, wounded several times, became addicted to drugs, heroin, got over that, served time in prison because of that, got out of prison, and he's working in this office building as an engineer, as I was. So I talked to him. I describe him that way because he's a pretty tough guy. And I was just learning. And he said to me, "Now, Don, there's nothing that you can break here that I can't fix." And that carried an essence of encouragement and security and don't worry, I got your back, and loyalty. So people carry things, and it's also important for us to notice and pay attention, so these things may be amplified. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you.